Guys, I got a game for you.
Oh no, here we go again.
All right, this time it's a quiz. Let's see how much you guys know about the wine stories that are being buzzed about on social media this week. So, Catherine, you're up first. What is chicken wine?
Ooh, chicken wine. Is that a wine you're supposed to drink with chicken or
Wrong. It's a critter wine and one that we all know well. But for some reason, the kids on TikTok have just discovered La Vieille Ferme.
Oh yeah, we all know that brand. That label has been around since the 1970s. It's that cheap supermarket brand from the Perrin family. It's actually pretty good and they sell millions of cases a year worldwide.
Yeah, I dig the branding. I think that's probably part of why it's taking off. And the TikTokers in their 20s have just discovered it.
Yeah, well, the real story here is that TikTok loosened its restrictions on alcohol back in August, so you're seeing more wine content there. But anyway, yes, chicken wine, it's there on our socials.
Right. And Ruby, you're next. So here's your question. According to the New York Times, why are young people going to wine bars?
To drink wine?
Wrong. According to a piece by Casey Lewis, Gen Z is increasingly sober, but they're still going to wine bars.
Oh, yeah, I know that. They go for the vibe.
That is correct. Wine bars may not be winning on wine sales, but they're winning on vibes. So, Catherine, speaking of TikTok,
I will never get this question if it's about TikTok.
what is dirty soda?
Soda with a lot of terroir.
Wrong. Well, actually got me. This one comes to us, at least in part, from the wonderful women of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. According to the drinks business, dirty soda is a mix of carbonated soft drinks laced with additional flavored syrups, sweeteners, and creams.
Okay, that sounds disgusting. It sounds way too sweet, and I never want to taste that.
And speaking of too sweet, Ruby, guess how many grams per liter of sugar one bottle of Meiomi Pinot Noir contains?
I have no idea. I think red wine is usually drier, so I'm going to guess 0 sugar.
Wrong! Meiomi has between 18 and 21 grams per liter of sugar, depending on the vintage. A rival brand called Dial Tone has been running ads claiming that there is less sugar in 32 bottles of Dial Tone Pinot Noir than one bottle of Meiomi Pinot Noir.
Oh
And
my gosh.
according to the San Francisco Chronicle, Dial Tone's winemaker, Adam Lee, received a cease and desist letter about the ads.
Oh yeah, Adam Lee. He founded Siduri. He's a pretty good winemaker, so I have a feeling he does know his sugar levels. So let me guess. In response, did he send them lab results?
Right, yeah. Lee found that his ad was indeed incorrect. He
Oh,
could have claimed that there is actually less sugar in 45 bottles of Dialtone Pinot Noir than one bottle of Meiomi Pinot Noir.
oh my God.
Oh my God. And people wonder why they get headaches from red wine. That's insane.
And thus concludes our game, in which we have learned probably nothing.
All right. Good job,
I feel like I
everybody.
learned a lot.
We are watching Weed and Wine. I'm boozing in Berlin. A winery was acquired for a truly ungodly sum. The Blue Zones may have been bullshit, and we have a special guest, Kimberly Charles, who will give us even more reasons to come on over in October. That's the news that we are following this week on The Four Top, your favorite wine news podcast. I'm Katherine Cole, joined by Nick Toole and Ruby Welkovich.
So, Catherine, you sound far away again. Where are you right now?
Well, I'm in Paris right now, but I just got here. I just flew here today from Berlin.
Oh, Berlin. That's where your brother lives?
That is correct.
Very cool. What have you been drinking there?
Yeah, let's make a new segment, Boozing in Berlin.
Okay, well, I will get you all up to date on the drinking scene here. I have to say, my favorite thing I drank was actually just last night. My sister-in-law makes this home macerated schnapps with tarragon and honey. It was so delicious. I could not stop drinking it. It was so good. She makes it with fresh tarragon from her garden. And of course, I drank wine. I drank some delicious sect, and I made a point of drinking wines I don't get much of in the US, like Limburger and Sylvaner.
Okay, enough about wine. You were in beer country. Let's go. Let's hear about some beer.
Yes, I did take notes for you, Nick, and my brother and my sister-in-law are huge beer enthusiasts, and so they gave me the full lowdown. Actually, it was my sister-in-law because, ladies, they send each other good notes. I'm sure you probably know a lot of this stuff, Nick, but I learned a lot. So, like, do you know what Berliner Weisse is? It's also called sour beer.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's a type of a sour beer. Yeah, I had a good amount of it in Berlin, but not really my favorite.
Well, so I thought it was interesting, first of all, that they have a specific glass type that they drink it out of. It's like this big bowl with a narrow stem, and they drink it in the summer. And then my sister-in-law was saying that people often add raspberry syrup or woodruff syrup to this kind of beer, which I thought was interesting.
Whoa. I've never thought of adding syrups to beer, but honestly, that would make beer more enjoyable for me.
Yeah, and I think it sounds better than a dirty soda for sure.
Yeah, it's like a German dirty soda.
Yeah. Yeah, I also learned that these syrups are kind of a big thing there. So my sister-in-law just had elderflower syrup and rhubarb syrup just kind of like sitting around in her kitchen when we went to her house. So we were drinking sect, which is sparkling wine, and my mom added some, I believe, rhubarb syrup to her sect, and then I added some elderflower syrup to my sparkling water, and it was super delicious. So I love this tradition.
That's so cool. What are the bars like in Berlin?
There were, of course, lots of cool wine bars. My brother and sister-in-law love going to a craft brewery there called Burlo. It's Brlo, kind of a cool beer hall built out of shipping containers in like downtown Berlin. Very cool. And then I learned that every type of bar kind of has its own name. So we went to this one dive bar in their neighborhood, and they're like, oh, this is a Berliner Eckkneipen. I think I'm pronouncing that right, which translates as Berlin Corner Pub. So, like, each bar has kind of a designation or a title. So, this was a Berlin Corner Pub. It was a total fire hazard. The alcohol was pretty low quality, but I was kind of interested to see that they had a whole like fruit juice menu on their drink menu. Apparently, people go to bars in Berlin and just order juice. And apparently, the thing to do is order banana juice and cherry juice and mix them together.
Ah, yeah, they call that the Mayomi.
Totally, right? Anyway, they don't just drink juice, they do get their alcohol. They also order, I guess what we call in the US a Boilermaker. They call it Müller und Korn. Korn, Korn, is the local schnapps, and they serve it ice cold. Oh, and the other thing was in the restaurants, schnapps was this whole thing. All the restaurants had like schnapps carts. And so I tasted a few different ones. There's one called Berliner Luft, which was peppermint schnapps. And then I really enjoyed one called Weinhefebrand. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it is schnapps made with wine yeast, or wine yeast brandy is what it is. That was pretty good.
All right. Well, sounds like the Four Tops' next group trip should be to Berlin.
My bag is packed. I'm on my way to the airport.
Gosh, okay. There's a new wine movie out streaming as of late last month, and we all watched it. It's called Weed and Wine, and you can get it on Amazon Prime Video.
Yes, this is a documentary from filmmaker Rebecca Richmond Cohen. It was executive produced by the rapper Burner, who is apparently a cannabis magnate. He owns a massive cannabis chain called Cookies, as well as the brand Vibes Papers. So I don't know what I expected from this film, but I guess I thought it was going to be totally pro weed. But it's definitely more interesting than that. Let's just set the scene for the listeners here.
Yeah, so Weed and Wine focuses on two families, or two parent-child dynamics, I should say. There are the T-Bones in France's Rhone Valley and the Jodries, who are cannabis growers in Humboldt, California.
I love the Jodries. The dad, Kev, talks about being locked up in 11th grade and coming from a family of ethical criminals in a patriarchal crime syndicate. So, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast from the Thibon family, who they've been wine growers since 1670 at Mas de Libian. It's a Rhone biodynamic producer. So lots of family tradition in that story. And, they plow their biodynamic vineyard with horses and the whole thing. This is very historic, kind of traditional Rhone wine growing family. And we meet the mother, Hélène, and the son, Aurélien.
And these growers are both sustainable, right? Ma de Libian is biodynamic, and the Jodries, whose business is called Wonderland Nursery, farm regeneratively.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it's a point of pride for them to grow outside. They call their plants sun grown. So, this is more sustainable than indoor cultivation, which has a massive carbon footprint and consumes at this point more than 3% of California's electricity. And that was back in 2016 when the film was made. So it's probably more than that now. I remember reading once that growing one joint's worth of indoor weed produces the same amount of CO2 as driving 25 miles.
That
Wow.
is just crazy. And I did appreciate that they talked about this because we just don't talk about sustainable production with marijuana enough. So, hey, what did you think of the film, Nick?
As I alluded to earlier, I went into the film with a lot of skepticism because it was produced by a weed magnate rapper.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was going to be sort of just like lip service to the weed industry, but I thought it painted kind of balanced picture, and
Mhm.
also it illustrated the family dynamics very well. Like I really enjoyed learning about not just what they produced, but also the family dynamic, and it was kind of cute story overall.
I thought the filmmakers did a really good job of choosing two really kind of dynamic families who are very watchable. They have interesting faces. The mother, Helen, is a really beautiful woman, and so it's you just love watching her make wine. She's just a pleasure to watch. So, Nick, I think you touched upon an interesting point, and Ruby may have mentioned it earlier as well, which is that go into this thinking this is going to be a film about marijuana and wine, and it's actually a film about parent-child relationships, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the family dynamic. I thought that part was really well told, and it took a film that was otherwise about two what some people might call vices and really turned it into something very enjoyable to watch. Not that wine or weed are necessarily vices. I'm just, some people may think of it that way.
I mean, yeah, and it was so interesting to learn about the Weed family. I didn't think I would be that interested in that side of the story, but the fact that this family had been operating as criminals for years, and then when marijuana was legalized, they were able to literally come out into the open and farm their crop outside, which is really the sustainable way to do it. I found that interesting.
I actually have some friends that are growing some outdoor weeds. So, if I were to smoke marijuana, theoretically, that's the marijuana that I would smoke.
Is it legal in Maine
I
or
know.
no?
I was like, why are
Yeah,
we
yeah, I
talking in
don't I know, yeah.
hypotheticals?
I don't need to I don't need to be sketchy about it. It's absolutely 100% legal, and
Yeah, but it's illegal in the Four Top.
that's actually a company rule.
Nobody told me this rule, but good to know.
We only talk about wine here
Yeah.
and occasionally beer. So, shall we recommend that our listeners go out and check this film out?
Yeah, grab a blunt, grab some Mayomi, and, sit back and watch this bad boy.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah, it's beautifully shot, it's very relaxing. I thought it was a little long, but, it was very relaxing to watch. So, yeah, check it out, guys.
Smoke one up and watch it.
All right, we are a little behind on this story since it popped up just as we finished recording last week's episode, but we couldn't let it pass. Duckhorn Portfolio is being taken private by a company called Butterfly Equity for a cool $1.95 billion.
Oh, wow. Well, if I'd known it would be that cheap, I would have scooped it up myself. So, yeah, anyway, the St. Helena, California based Duckhorn owns brands like Duckhorn Vineyards, Decoy, Sonoma Cutrer, and Costa Brown. And Butterfly, I've never even heard of Butterfly Equity before, but apparently is snapping it up for $11.10 per share, which is a 106% premium on the share price prior to the sale.
Yeah, based on the not so great, very meh news we hear about wine sales, this might seem like a bad move for Butterfly Equity, but actually, Duckhorn's fourth quarter sales grew 7.3% from a year earlier. So apparently, its profit margins are getting slimmer, but that's something I guess Butterfly can work on.
Well, we will see what this means for Duckhorn and its brands, but this nicely segues into another story we read this week. You guys remember Silicon Valley Bank, right?
Oh, yes, it basically imploded last year.
Yeah, but it's still big in the wine world for more than just that. It has long been the top finance source for winery acquisitions. But an article in the drinks business this week claims that the Canadians want in on the wine acquisition game and Silicon Valley Bank may need to give up its title soon.
It's true, eh? The bank the Bank
Eh?
of Montreal The Bank of Montreal is partnering with the California-based merger and acquisition firm Ziponi to become, quote, the finance source and the advisory source for wine transactions for wineries buying and selling each other.
Well, I suppose it isn't the worst time to get into the game. Aside from the very recent Duckhorn sale, Domaine Baron de Rothschild Lafitte bought William Fevre. Pernod Ricard sold off its wine portfolio. Treasury Wine Estates announced that it's selling some brands, and Washington State's Col Solare was acquired by a French producer, all in 2024.
Wow, sounds like it's time to sell the foretop for a cool 1 billion and retire to the south of France. Who's with me?
I'm in. Sounds good.
I'm in.
Well, okay. So the non journalist in me did not want to report this last story because I don't want it to be true. This is why I call myself a recovering wine journalist. But the journalist in me still lives and I must report it. Sadly, sadly.
Ah, yes, the Blue Zones conspiracy.
Ah, yes. I recently read up on an interview. I think it was in Minnesota Now from Minnesota Public Radio, in which reporter Kathy Wurtzer spoke with Saul Newman, who is a senior research fellow at the University College London's Center for Longitudinal Studies. Now, the big story coming from this interview is that the whole idea of the blue zones may be bullshit. And actually, I think Felicity Carter also covered this, and I'm very sad about it.
I'll be honest and say that I'm not shocked, but we have spent a whole heck of a lot of time on this podcast reporting on wine and health, and that included these so called blue zones. They're the areas in the world where people live extraordinarily long and healthy lives, and many of these people drink wine.
But Saul Newman is here to call BS. His
Mm.
research, which we should note is not yet peer reviewed, found that many of the centenarians, that is, people 100 years old or older, researched in the blue zones were actually either dead, missing, or lying about their age. So apparently,
What?
42% of the centenarians in Costa Rica were lying, and 82% of those in Japan were missing or dead.
Oh my god, this is so sad. Well, aside from my dismay at learning all of this, I did find this kind of funny. In the Blue Zones documentary, they say that people in Okinawa, Japan, eat a lot of purple sweet potatoes, which helps them to live longer. But according to Japan's own National Nutritional Survey, people in Okinawa eat the least amount of sweet potatoes in Japan, at least according to this report. So, what the heck?
This all makes the Blue Zones researchers sound so inept, but we do need to go back to the fact that Saul Newman's research is not peer reviewed, and he claims he is getting blackballed by the scientific community. He believes that scientific journals are quietly refusing to peer review his work.
Hmm.
And the Blue Zones organization did respond to his claims in a blog post on their website, so we can't be too definitive in either direction. I do just want to say that I believe that woman, I can't remember how old she is, but she was quite old and she drinks Franzia chilled red wine or chillable red wine every night. And so
Oh, this is
she
so
is my Blue Zone.
okay, this now you gotta remind us all. This is this woman from TikTok. She was like a very
100,
elderly woman.
104.
104, and
104.
she said she drinks Franzia every day.
That is her secret to youth. And so, yeah, she's my Blue Zone.
Okay, you know what? I am in her camp. I'm gonna continue to believe in the blue zones and just hope that, maybe there are people secretly eating purple yams that just haven't been documented. I don't know.
I want to note that if you drink Franzia, you don't live very long, but if you drink Franzia, you live a lot longer. So,
Right.
it's
And
yeah, it's an important distinction.
Okay, it's time for our question of the week. We asked our wonderful Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn followers, is it time for our industry to stop claiming wine can be healthy?
And boy, did y'all deliver on those answers. Incense Explorer begins, ultimately, I don't think it makes sense to spend a lot of time and money making claims that, however true they may be, can be easily refuted and argued from various angles. To me, wine, like incense, hence the name Incense
Mhm.
Explorer, I assume, is an indulgence, something that we do because it makes us feel good. It's something that brings joy when used responsibly. It is icing on the cake of life.
Well, I do love cake. Todd Parola writes, compared to breakfast cereal, probably. And I'm not actually sure that breakfast cereal is all that healthy, but I was raised on Fruity Pebbles, so what do I
I think
breakfast
that's his point.
breakfast
know?
cereal was so different back then. I feel like it's so much healthier now. Well, a friend of the pod, Martin McLannon, Portlander, hello, Martin, wrote in saying, don't take the bait of those who want to frame the discussion around the toxicity of ethyl alcohol measured in milliliters. This is the wrong question. The question is a life with wine part of a long, social, and healthy life? The question is, are people who enjoy wine happier than those who don't? The question is, where would you prefer to vacation? A place that grows wine or a place that doesn't? There are plenty of bureaucrats and curmudgeons who love these kinds of questions in search of purging humanity of the nemesis du jour. If we join them in this sad narrative, we become them. Woof! Martin, on fire.
Maybe get
Well,
Martin
thank
on the
you.
pod.
I know. I love it. I love it. Fighting the good fight out there. I love these comments. I love how passionate our listeners are, and I love hearing from you all. So keep it up, guys, listeners, guys and gals.
How about a question for this week?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I was shocked in the beginning of the episode to learn how very high in sugar Meiomi is for a Pinot Noir. Oh my goodness. So, how about we invite our listeners to go ahead and snitch on some brands that are sneaking a lot of sugar into their supposedly dry wines? So, listeners, what are some wines out there with surprisingly high sugar content? Go ahead and tattle. We want to hear.
Hey, guys, how have you been celebrating Come Over October?
Well, I have been going on dates at wine bars, so I think that counts.
Perfect.
That's cool. I like that.
Nailed
Yeah.
it.
I'm sort of celebrating Come Over October in Germany and France right now, but I am also very excited that it's still October and we still get to talk about this. So, how about we phone a friend for our dessert course and get Kimberly Charles in here to let us know how the Come Over October campaign is going? Listeners may remember that Karen McNeil told us about it last week. And hey, Kimberly, come on over and let us know what's going on with Come Over October.
Hey, listen, this is great. Thank you so much for having me on the Foretop. I'm a big fan, a longtime listener, first time on the air with you. And I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I celebrate 40 years in the wine industry this year. And I started as a somm in Washington, D.C. when I was in college and, went the whole way with importers and suppliers. And I've pretty much been a part of every sector of the business, always in marketing. And I love my work. I'm a creative at heart. So, whatever your portal is to come into the world of wine, I love to be able to help people. So, anyway, getting to the Come Over October program, Karen McNeil called me in February and said she was quite discouraged about what was going on with respect to what I call the gathering storm of the wine industry. She was concerned about the neo prohibitionist narrative and how we didn't seem to have our voice. And this has happened a lot in our news. So she knew that if she got a hold of a couple of very communicative people, let's put it that way, that she could help amplify the message. So she contacted me. I'm based in San Francisco and I have a firm called Charles Communications Associates. And she contacted Gino Colangelo, based in New York, with also an office out here. Two communicators who have a lot of experience, a lot of contacts, and know how to get the word out.
So cool.
Kimberly, can you tell us a little bit about what the reception has been so far? I feel like we've
Absolutely.
been seeing mentions all over the national news. It's so exciting.
Yes, thank you. We have been really stunned by the enthusiasm around Come Over October. Right away, we got a call from Wine America who said, we would love to get all 50 states that produce wine involved in this campaign. And we had a meeting with Jim Treeseyes, who runs Wine America, and all his regional heads. And those folks independently in a very animated way said, we're on board. So we just concluded a tasting in Washington, D.C. with wines from most of those states. And you would not believe the level of enthusiasm that's going on. So let's just put it that way. We started with Wine America, and then other folks kept coming on board. Total Wine came on board, and 270 plus stores are promoting Come Over October in the aisles this October. we had the entire state of Texas say, October's our wine month, and we would love to just have this be come on over, y'all. So the whole state of Texas is behind us, and there are many, many more supporters that they're too long to list, but they're from retail, they're from wholesale, they're from restaurant level, they're wineries. I'm so excited about some of the creativity that we're seeing coming forward. And the last thing I'll say is that I think that the wine industry in my career has been very competitive, but this is a concept and a campaign that has made people put down their inherent nature to compare themselves to others and say, we need to do something together. And that's what's pretty exciting about it.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's so cool. I really love the visual of using media as a portal into the wine world. Could you tell us a bit more about how you got this ad in Times Square?
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. You can get your message up on a billboard in Times Square for $250 for the day.
Wow.
And on the 45th minute of the hour, that's your spot. It was a 15-second spot. We had a longer one, but we had a chance to get it up there. Several people I know saw it. And we had an encounter, I think you might have heard, with the Naked Cowboy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he came up with the song right on the spot, which was amazing. And we just had a lot of fun. So we think we're going to keep it going because there are no better eyeballs than Times Square in New York. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't know it was that affordable. I'm now thinking what maybe I could put up on a billboard in Times Square.
How about a four top, the three of you? Why
There
not?
you go.
Yeah,
Just our
that's not a bad
faces.
idea.
Send it home to mom.
Yeah.
Mom, I'm in Times Square. I'm on Broadway now. I'm not in a play, but
Or I wait till my mom's birthday and then just do a happy birthday, mom message.
There you
up
go.
there you
could do
go.
that.
There you go. Exactly.
So I was curious, we've seen certain reactions to the wine discussion around health where the wine industry wants to talk about the health aspects of wine, and that could be a difficult argument sometimes to make. And so I was curious, how has it been changing the conversation to talk more about the social and cultural importance and appeal of wine instead of the health aspect?
Nick, that's such a great question. And I think that as we all are witness to, whether it's wine or food, we're hearing conflicting messages all the time and we don't know what to believe. And so we want to first of all leave the health expertise to the experts. That being
Yeah.
said, we're not always sure what's coming and filtering down is really accurate, as we well know. So we felt, well, what better thing than to do a hearts and minds campaign? And that's really what this is. We're really tapping into, I think, the real essence of what all of us are in the wine industry for. I say we're hospitalians, it's at the heart of what we do. So we all by nature are generous and we know how quickly friendships can form, conversations can flow when we're with wine. So we all know that intrinsically. And I think sometimes you've got to kind of put aside a lot of the noise and get back to the basics. And that's what this is about.
I have been in the beer industry for a long time and now in the wine industry, and I don't know anyone that's in either of those industries to drink.
Mhm.
They're in those industries because of the cultural and social reasons.
Yeah.
So,
We're a big family in a way.
yeah.
Very true.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kimberly Charles. This has been fantastic. We are so excited about Come Over October and so grateful to you for all the work you've been doing for the wine industry. So thank you.
Well, I must say the same to you. Thank you all for everything you do with the Four Top, and congrats on your nomination with the Paul Mall Awards. And keep reaching for the stars. Y'all are great.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Katherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
And I'm media and design manager Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is the composer and performer of our theme music. Please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us and listen to back episodes.
If you have not already subscribed to the Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so, and please leave us a rating.
Yes, this is super important. Every rating feeds the algorithm and helps new listeners find the Four Top.
Well, from a hotel room in Gay Paris, where I am getting ready to dine at the aptly named Le Bistrot des Vignes tonight, this is Katherine signing out.
From a very foggy Portland, Maine, where I just slept a personal record 10 hours, this is Nick signing out.
So jealous. And from a vibey wine bar in Brooklyn, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.